Let's do it.
Hey, welcome back to our show, A Year of Magical Learning. So today we're up to book 47.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I can't believe we're on 47.
Book 47, yeah.
I feel like we just started this, like honestly, it feels like it just started a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, clearly not, but that's pretty cool. It's going fast because we're having fun. Yeah, it's going fast because we're having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, side note, I was telling my wife, this is what we've been doing for the past couple months of like the first 15 20 minutes of our nightly connects, and must be fun to have fun all the time. And I was like, no, we're working. I was like, what? But it is fun. I mean, I guess isn't work supposed to be fun? And
That's supposed to be fun. Fun is fun and work is work.
right. This is the Club and Mission, making work fun.
No, Club and Mission isn't to work. It's not fun all the time, but fun brings value. I mean, exactly. For whatever reason, I come to think of the word work as doing something I don't want to do.
Right. Meaningful. Actually, it's fun. That's a good segue into the topic for today. So the book that we're going to be talking about is book 47, which is Principles, Life and Work by Ray Dalio. So have you read this one? I forget.
I have not.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you know what it's about.
I think you told me not to read it.
So I'm not going to say that I'm not going to recommend this book, and I'll explain why, I guess. The Principles is a book written by Ray Dalio in 2017. Ray Dalio is a hedge fund manager, owns this company called Bridgewater Associates. Bridgewater is like one of the world's most successful hedge funds. I think it might be the most successful hedge fund. And Ray Dalio has a very unique management style and structure and culture that he's built at Bridgewater. It's very, very unique. I am sure that I would not be a fit in it at all, but he has a very clear intentional design as to how he wants to build out his business. And that's what he lays out in this whole book. It's about his principles of how he turns his principles into the intelligent design of the business and the culture they've been trying to build at Bridgewater. So in one respect, I'll share my screen here really fast. In one respect, I really respect what he's doing because it's very similar to what we're trying to do. He's taking an intentional design approach to build out his environment to create meaningful work and meaningful relationships. And that's the name of the title, is Meaningful Work and Meaningful Relationships. That's his mission. Like the very beginning of this reflection, I started off with, what really makes us happy.
Is it that his missions or is that our mission?
It's both, actually. That's that wasn't his mission to start. It's a very similar story to, I feel like, to Let My People Go Surfing, where Bridgewater Associates didn't start off this way, but as he learned and grew, this is how he developed. It's funny. The way that I like to look at Bridgewaters of the world and Patagonias of the world is they started off as a business. Eventually along the way, they realized we don't want this to be like our business. So we're going to shift our culture and build it around our values, kind of midway pivot. I think that what we're trying to do is take that intelligent design where they've pivoted midway through and say, we're starting that way. And, we don't even know what we're going to make or what business we're going to build out of it, but we're going to start with the culture first and how we want to live and operate and what we want to do in that environment and build that up. And then we'll figure out the what behind it. Like, and that'll be our pivot some days. What are we actually going to do with this culture? For them, though, it is still about meaningful work and meaningful relationships at the same day. So we're aligned on the mission overall. I don't disagree at all. I mean, that's what I started off this reflection of, what really makes us happy. It's, in my personal opinion, it's when our individual core values and missions are aligned to the people that we surround ourselves with and the work that we do every single day. That's what really makes us happy. It's no different than what we're doing right now. We just said it's fun, right? When what we do aligns to our values and who we're with, it's just fun. Like, it's no longer work at that point in time. It's meaningful at the same time. It all kind of just flows together. So Ray Dalio specifically calls that out as meaningful work and meaningful relationships in his book. Okay. The funny thing is about Ray Dalio, though, this is why I said I don't read the book, because all of his principles I don't agree with, and you wouldn't agree with probably. Not all of them. The majority of the principles that he lays out in that book, I don't believe in them. And that's because we don't really believe in the modern business culture. Like, we're trying to redefine our own culture in a different format. And so a lot of the stuff that he talks about, like radical candor and all this other crap, of things that I like don't agree with, like that we have a balanced approach. That's one of our values, right? So we don't want radical anything. We don't want extreme anything. And we don't want extreme ownership. We don't want radical candor. We don't want all this, business jargon these days, because balance is our mission, right? It's about having people to, fill all their dimensions of their life and to do it in a moderate approach where they're challenging themselves, but at the same time, they're not going to the extremes,
It's about sustaining.
Exactly.
Is for forever until when you don't do it anymore, which is when you die. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to do this for a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and I stop. You take about, talking about like extreme ownership, for example.
Right.
It's refers to say, hey, this is a temporary thing. I can only do this extreme for so long.
Right. Yep. It's really funny you say that, because there's this guy on Facebook that I'm loosely friends with. He recently got way overweight, like way out of shape and way overweight. He pushed his body to the limits of, completely excess. And he realized, crap, I got to reverse course. So then he went into this huge fitness kick where he lost like 150 pounds in a year period of time. And now he's been putting on a little bit of weight. Today, he just announced, I saw this, he goes, I'm starting my hard 75 again, which I don't even know what that means, but I think it's like this super strict, restrictive diet and exercise program for 75 days. He posted a photo of himself on day one. And I'm like, why don't you just do like a moderate 365 and stay, like that would be why does it have to be a hard 75 to push your body into extreme, into yo-yo back and forth? Like, let's just be moderate 365, where you challenge yourself and you're sustainable, like exactly like you just said. So it's not like these extremes back and forth, so anyway, so I don't think that you and I would, I know it. I mean, you would not be aligned to a lot of the stuff that Ray Dalio talks about in this book, which is why I said, like, you probably wouldn't enjoy the actual book, and why I'm saying I would probably get fired in the first, month or two working at Bridgewater, because I would be like, I'm not a part of this culture. This isn't meaningful work and meaningful relationships to me.
Align with your values.
Exactly. So that's why I would say, all respect to the guy. I appreciate what he's trying to do, and I appreciate the forum that he's trying to do it in. But I think for us, like, we need to build our own culture, and that's what we're trying to do. To get to meaningful work and meaningful relationships, I feel like so many people forget the most important fundamental thing, which is you have to know yourself first, inside and out, as to what you value, what your mission is, what your why is. You have to know yourself before you can ever align yourself into a meaningful work and meaningful relationship environment. That is fundamental. I think it's the thing that most people don't know, and I think it gets overlooked. So I think for these environments that are created by people like Ray Dalio, like, that's the other thing that we're trying to do that's different, is we're not trying to attract people into our culture. We're trying to help them to discover themselves, and that is the culture that we're going to create, right? Like, so we want to know them just as much as we want the ecosystem to be united together. I feel like places like Bridgewater or Patagonia, on the surface, or Apple or even Salesforce, like where I work, on the surface, people go, yeah, that seems like a great culture and a place that I want to be at. But they think they enter it going, I hope the culture can shape who I am, versus going, I am this person. Is this the right environment for me? I think they're putting too much on the ecosystem to provide happiness for them. That's not what it should be about. It'd be about an equal parts mixture of the ecosystem and the individual marrying up together to align values for meaningful work and meaningful relationships. So that's the reflection overall for the day. This is a really important topic for you and I, so I'm sure there's a lot to say and a lot to talk about. So yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts.
So before I say anything, can you recap for us, for me and for the audience, what's the similarity between Ray Dalio's and company, and what's the difference? I mean, I know you talk about it, but is there one sentence that you can say that kind of give us a glimpse of what's the difference between company versus Ray Dalio's Bridgewater Associates?
Yeah, there's one huge difference. Ray Dalio's environment is Ray Dalio. That is what he values in the inner circle of the people that he started out Bridgewater with, and they had this idea together. This is the entity is what drives meaningful work and meaningful relationships for him. Once he's gone, that ecosystem is going to die. Like, I mean, there's just no way around it. Like, I mean, that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're not, Clubany is not you and I. Clubany is about a shared value ecosystem like Bridgewater has, but it is about the individual and them being able to express themselves. And that's the mission that we're trying to do. It's empowering the monkey and the beehive, right? Like, it's not about making everybody a bee in the beehive. It's about allowing people to be that brilliant monkey that they are, the individual brilliant monkey, and then creating moments where people can collaborate and connect and grow. Bridgewater is the mission for them. It is about making revenue through a hedge fund, right? I mean, that should shift in the future. That is not our mission. Our mission is to help people to live a balanced existence. And then whatever comes of that, maybe we end up having a hedge fund or something like that, but that's not what this is built around.
Okay. So for me to kind of understand myself, the way I look at it is like, let's say we have a flock of sheep. A flock of sheep has its behaviors. It has basically a culture. It does things which are similar. Everybody does the same thing. And then one day, let's say a baby lion, for whatever reason, during the hunt, lost, they get lost or whatever, and found the flock of sheep. And then he follows a flock of sheep. And that flock of sheep, he copies them and he says, bah, right?
Right.
Because he hear the other sheep say, bah. And so to me, the way I look at it, it's like that lion, because he look at the people around him. They do certain thing. He just copy and do the same thing. And when he grows up, he eats grass because the sheep eat grass. And then eventually, it's one of those things where, like I said, a flock of sheep is an analogy to a culture, like Ray Dalio in itself say, hey, this is the way or the culture that I want. People come in, you become a sheep. Even if you're a lion, you become a sheep. Even if you're a wolf, you become a sheep. You do exactly what I do, right? But that, to me, the difference is that you cannot change a lion into a sheep. A lion's gonna be a lion regardless. It's the way it's born, and right, it doesn't change. But the lion, without looking at himself in the reflection in the water, he would never know that he's a lion and he doesn't belong in the flock of sheep.
He can belong in the flock of sheep,
but no, he cannot belong in the flock of sheep. No, but the thing is, what I'm trying to understand for myself is that the difference between Ray Dalio's and Clubberny is that Ray Dalio is telling you that this is my values.
Right.
You come in, I'll make you a Ray Dalio.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not a sheep, you cannot become a sheep. Rather, eventually, it's going to go against your nature. And to me, the biggest idea we can take away from this is that Clubberny gets you to look at yourself in the water, to see your reflection, to see who you are first before we put them into a tribe.
Right.
And to me, that's a big fundamental difference between the two. That is, I understand, because the thing is, eventually, a lion's going to be a lion, a sheep's going to be sheep. Without knowing your own core values, you can't say, well, Ray Dalio's is a great culture. You cannot make you into a sheep. He cannot make you into Ray Dalio's associates unless you already has the innate, you're born with it. So that's why I say a painter must paint, a writer must write, a beaver must dam, right? It's just one of those things where you are born with it. So in Clubberny, meaningful work and meaningful relation comes from deep within. Right? It's like who you are is who you are. You need to learn that. Need to learn what aspect and what characteristic that makes you who you are, and then find the work that is aligned with that value, with that what you're giving. You can't say, okay, I'm a sheep and I want to be a lion. I can't be a lion and be in the flock with sheep.
But you still want to be in a hive. Like you still want to
you still want to be with your own kind.
Exactly.
Right? Like a lion's pride, right? Salesforce say, these are our core values. When you become a Salesforce employee, let's pretend that Salesforce is a pack of wolf or whatever, whatever animal you want. And somebody comes in, well, they're going to make you into a wolf, right?
Yeah.
And that to me is a fundamental difference between what the companies out there using culture to build versus what Clubberny is building.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's a great use case in the way that you describe it. You know what the beautiful thing is that the way you're just describing this, I think of the whole ecosystem in general of, when a beaver can dam, that means that the grass can grow, which means the elk can eat, which means the wolves can hunt, which means the trees are maintained, which means the soil doesn't erode down the hill because there's cows that are able to do it's everything. The ecosystem. A flock of sheep is not sustainable. As soon as it loses its shepherd, it's gone. Like as soon as people like Mark Benioff and his people at Salesforce eventually leave, it'll probably crumble
because it's not you're not that kind of an animal.
Right. Exactly.
If you're a lion, right, and eventually like all your sheep buddies are gone, right? Eventually you go on and say, well, is it my behavior. It's not my core value. It's not what I do. Well,
Right.
I'd rather eat meat than I eating grass. And so you're going to revert to your whatever state, or the makeup of your genetics.
And then it also reverts back to the core of the mission as well, which is making money. Like, I mean, like you look at like Walmart, right? Like this is what our fundamental problem was with like Patagonia. I appreciate that they're trying to do quote unquote good in this world and the sustainability and this whole pivot of what they've done, but they're still making clothes for money. Like, no matter if you tell people not to buy more of your clothes.
It's just saying like, look, you should thank me because I am killing only children's over on the west side and not the whole. That's what they're doing. Like, right. Oh, I'm environmentally friendly because I don't do it as much.
Right. The mission is flawed from the beginning is the point. Like, I mean, it's not Ray Dalio's mission was not meaningful work and meaningful relationships. Patagonia and Yvonne Chouinard was not meaningful work.
I haven't seen anyone that's doing that because no one, and to me, this seems to me like a fundamental problem that a lot of people is having is no one is looking at themselves and seeing the lion reflection back at them.
Yeah.
They are looking at what people around them say, okay, these are sheep. Well, I must be a sheep. Instead of looking inside of themselves, they're looking outside and say, well, if he's a sheep, then I must be a sheep. If he is a sheep, I must be a sheep too.
Right. You're totally right. I wrote it in this, you see down at the bottom here, it said, if you feel misalignment resulting in something missing in your life, it might be time to look within and not without for answers that you seek. I agree with you. I think a lot of people are walking around as rhinoceroses and they walk into an environment filled that are a bunch of prairie dogs or whatever. And they're like, well, I guess I'm a prairie dog, and then they assume that that'll solve, their misalignment that they need. And if anything, it gets even worse, like,
yes. And they get totally lost. So imagine you're that baby lion cub grow up to be this huge lion. So it's like, why am I being lonely? Why do my friends look at me like I'm this monster? Why are they ostracize me? Right. You're giving this lion a hard time mentally.
Well, I cannot stop thinking about The Lion King, like the movie The Lion King, when he's hanging out with Timon and Pumbaa, and they literally teach him to eat bugs. They teach him to, live off the land, Hakuna Matata. And then one day he starts to, that's how he lives his life. And one day he sees his other lions and he's like, well, that's not me. Like that, I mean, I can still be friends with Timon and Pumbaa, and they can still do things together. But like that's not. But that time I have
to go take my pride back and lead my pride and have other lions.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. I mean, you're spot on. I think that you and I are both obviously aligned on what we're trying to do going forward, where we're starting with meaningful work and meaningful relationships as the goal, and aligning individuals and their values to each other, giving individuals the ecosystem and a platform and a forum to express themselves and then connect however they want to connect, but also feel the security of a tribe, of a hive.
Right. I mean, like I said, like you said, you can hang out with and Timon, but knowing that you're a lion, that's that point.
Exactly.
The point is don't, believe that you're not a lion because you believe, and he believed he's a hog.
Right.
Right.
Eating grubs and
there's nothing wrong with hanging out with Timon and Pumbaa, but it's knowing that he's a lion and hanging out. That to me is a fulfillment of life. That's a fundamental truth, right? If you know that and you decide that that's your choice, right? Having that gives you the freedom. This is what I would say meaningful work.
Yes,
right? Like meaningful relationship because you are real. You're not like, oh, I have a friendship with you because I'm also a warhog. Right. Versus, hey, I'm a lion and I'm going to be friends with a warhog. That's fine. That is true, authentic relationships. I mean,
as a Jeff, I know we're using animals as the symbolism here, but I want to make sure that we're crystal clear. This isn't about physical identity markers or race or ethnicity or gender. This is about intrinsic values.
It's not about the race, but it's like you're a painter, you're a sculptor,
Well, that's what you do. That's what you value. Painters want to create art.
That's the beaver must dam. So a beaver intrinsic characteristic is damming, is making a dam, right? A lion's intrinsic characteristic is to hunt and lead a pride, right?
Right.
So that characteristic, that's what we mean. It's not about okay, you're in this color or that color.
Yeah,
that's not what we're talking about.
Right. That's not the alignment that we're talking. Exactly. I just wanted to make sure we called that out of like, we're not trying to build a tribe of the same looking people or talking people.
We want to build a tribe of people who knows themselves, who know who they are.
And that's the fundamental difference is we're starting with the person first. And like, it's for you and I, we see this so easily where it's like you walk into a Salesforce ecosystem, they hammer you into your face, of this is our values. This is how we're going to be. This is how we operate. This is how we live. This is how to be a sheep.
How to the moon.
Like, nobody's ever
this is how you hunt in
me,
the pack.
Exactly. Nobody's ever asked me, what do you care about? Like, I mean, ever. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, and it's never once, and nobody cares what I care about. Like, I mean, that's or how I can express myself better. They're like, this is the values, and this is what you do in this value ecosystem. That is it. Like that. Right. That is we're flipping the script on this. It's yes, we still have an ecosystem with values in it.
We'll build from the bottom up.
Exactly. Right. Yes. With there are shared commonality values amongst everybody. And that's really, if we were designing Bridgewater and we were Ray Dalio, that would be you and I starting from the top and saying, like, this is our values because we built this like together, right? Like, so the main core fundamental values of the ecosystem of balance, of learning something new every day, of reflection, of action, of the stuff that we talk about that are important, that we've designed like the core values quest around and things like that to teach the environment in general is still important. But that would be where it would stop. And with any other business, we would say, okay, now we're going to take those values. Now we're going to go build a what out of that, right? No, that's not where we're stopping. That's just step one. Step two is all the other people, helping them to understand themselves. Ideally, we want people to walk in that already know themselves, and we just verify that. But probably that's, most people don't.
Most people aren't. Most people never look at themselves. Just like when you were born, like you're not looking at yourself. You don't choose the environment you're born into.
Right.
And when you're born, right, you just copy whatever you see. And so that innate behaviors continue into adulthood. And no one has ever does that until they either have an atomic bomb happen to them or they hit a midlife crisis and, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Why am I doing this? By that time, like, you're talking about 50, 60 years old. Right?
Or never. So, I mean, sometimes
you never even question that, who am I?
Exactly. That's the fundamental difference between all of this stuff, which is going to be a blast. It's going to be really hard to do, but it's going to be fun because it aligns to what we care about. It's no longer work, but it is still work, but it's no longer work. It's alignment.
For me, having fun is exerting energy to do something that is enjoyable.
Which could be work, play.
Exerting energy is something that you don't care about.
The way that we define it today, yes. Yeah, I'm with you 100%, man. More to come on Clubity. If you're interested in wanting to learn more, obviously you can go check out clubity.org, and a lot more to come for us in the future on this topic. So the question we can leave everybody with is, are your work and your friendships in harmony with your values? Something to think about.
Yep.
Something to really ponder. And if you don't even know your values, then start there. That would be step one. All right. Well, we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks for the conversation, and we'll talk to you then.
Bye.